Hi, everyone. Uh, so today on Safari, um, we're starting into the last half of the trip. And so we're leaving today, leaving Thorntree in Zambia and going to a camp in Botswana, our first camp in Botswana. Now, this looks like a fairly easy trip. But there was a lot involved with this, okay, because we were going across borders again. So, and again, this is one of the reasons, the reason I wanted to do these videos is because I wanted to kind of talk about these movements from country to country. And when you work through a company like Africa Dynamics, and there are other companies like them out there, but working through them, they know these tour operators and they know what kind of services that they can provide. And African Bush Camps did a fabulous job, which was our tour operator in Africa, of having help for us to maneuver through all these checkpoints and various things like that. Their drivers and their pilots and all the staff at the camps. They're amazing people. So let me give you a description of kind of what happened today. So we started the day at Thorntree in Zambia, and we didn't do any game drive that morning. There really wasn't much time to do that. So as we come out, I do have a few photos, leaving Thorntree, but we'll go through those. But our driver picked us up at Thorntree, and we drove for about 40 minutes to get to basically the Botswana border. Okay, so as we're coming up to that and starting to leave the country, um, there's a couple of there's a disease, an animal disease or something that's in Zambia that we had to stop at one stop and wipe our feet on this mat. Um, so nobody explained exactly what that was, but I think it was because of foot and mouth disease or something. Um, and And so we had to wipe our feet in this box on this mat. And then we got back in the vehicle. So then we drive a little further. We stop at this another building. We show our passport, and then they hand us a little piece of paper. And I think that little piece of paper basically said that we had wiped our feet. I don't know. I don't really know because it was a health check, you know, station of some kind. Then we drive a little further. At this point, we drive across a bridge, and our driver told us that we were looking at four different countries crossing that bridge. I know we were looking at Namibia, Zambia, Botswana, and one other. I don't remember, but it was kind of cool that he told us that because I wouldn't have known. And then as we come across that bridge, we come up to another checkpoint, and then we go through, and we're at this building. And this building is where we're going to switch drivers. You remember in a previous video, I had told you that going into Zambia from Zimbabwe, drivers are licensed for their country. They can't drive in other countries. So at that point, we had to switch drivers. But before we did that, we went into the building, and on one side was uh, Zambian immigration, and on the other side of the building so it was this big hall. So on this side, Zambian immigration, this side, it was Botswana immigration. So we had to go to Zambia first and have them check our passport again. And then we walked across this hall to Botswana, and they checked our passport and all that kind of stuff. And then we went out waiting for our driver. And when we switched drivers, the driver said, "Oh, we have to stop here and wipe your feet." And it's like, "Well, we've wiped our feet already." He said, "Well, do you have other shoes in your bag?" And we're like, "Yeah, we do, but we've not worn them. You know, they are shoes that we're going to use in Switzerland when we get there, you know." And so we didn't have to do the wiping of the feet again. And then off we go. And the driver took us to the Kasane airport. Now, once we were at the Kasane airport, um, we flew our bush plane to an airstrip, but apparently we were nowhere near our camp that we were going to. So, lo and behold, a helicopter pilot was waiting for us. So we got off our little bush plane and got onto a helicopter. And I have never flown a helicopter. Um, and I have to say, it's much preferable to those little bush planes. I have to say, I actually liked it quite well. And so, very first helicopter flight. So we take off, and apparently, the next camp that we went to, which was Linyanti in Botswana, is quite remote, or either it's really new and they haven't built an airstrip for it or whatever, but there's no airstrip there. And so we really felt out in the bush then, even more so than Somalisa. Uh, and so it was quite interesting to be there. Now, also, uh, I didn't realize how close we were to the Namibian border um, at Linyanti. So that was also kind of cool to understand. But anyway, let's get into some of the pictures. But that was kind of the day of travel. So by the time we got to Linyanti, the only thing we could do was our evening game drive. And I think we had maybe had lunch there, you know. So let's get into our photos. All right, so this was just a photo I took from our room at Thorntree before we left. I also took a video just so you could see this a little better. I'm standing out on the porch. It was a really nice place. It was really cool. Okay. Now, at several different camps, these monkeys were around. I just happened to get a few photos and video of them today. These are the velvet monkeys, and they were quite fun to watch. This one had an injury to a paw. I'm not exactly sure what happened, and I didn't ask, uh, but he still could swing through the trees and do all kinds of things. So I'm assuming it's a he. I'm just saying he. And this was while we were waiting for our driver. Uh, these monkeys were playing or swinging out in these trees. So you see that one kind of scampering up the tree there. And then you'll see this one come into view here shortly as he swings by. You saw the little tail. There he is. Swinging and then climbing up. It was our entertainment while we were waiting for our driver. They're very cool. There he is. It was hard to get good video of them, but I thought that was pretty good considering. Now this is Thorntree as you walk into the Thorntree Resort camp. This is their ode to Victoria Falls. And so it was a really nice little water feature that they had there that I liked. So now we've gotten to the airport and we're on our bush plane. So basically you can see that a lot of Botswana is delta. There's a lot of water in Botswana. And so I took a few pictures from the air um, because it was just beautiful. It was just really beautiful. You look at that. It's gorgeous. Okay. And then once we got to this airstrip here, some other people went off to a different camp, but we got on this lovely helicopter. And yay for helicopters. I liked that. It was like, could we book that next time if we go to Africa again? Just book straight helicopters because it was much preferable to the little planes. I don't know what kind of bird this was, but as we're um, once we landed at Linyanti, we had a little bit of a drive, not terribly much, not as much as Somalisa, trying to get there, but we were driving along, and I'm just taking pictures of animals that we see and stuff like that on the way. Like this dude. Now remember, that elephant that we were feeding at the Elephant Cafe, which was in the previous video. Remember how long his tusks were? And you can see these are used a lot in the wild. So while the elephants at the Elephant Cafe definitely were wild, they're not domesticated in any way, shape, or form, but they are used to humans probably more so than these animals. Um, but the elephants at the Elephant Cafe are protected elephants, and they interact with humans a lot more there. But you can see that these tusks are worn and used because they use them for a lot of things. And here we are driving back to the camp. Now, um, you can see this is sandy. This is a sandy road. Now, a lot of these are dirt roads, little rocky roads, but this is pretty sandy here. And so this has a lot of sand, and you can see how, you know, the guide has to really gear down quite a bit to drive through that. Um, and it's a little rough kind of going through it. Um, but just so you can see that. A kudu, saw a kudu on the way. Okay. So out on our game drive that evening, we did see this water buck um, at a watering hole. Nice female. Saw this zebra. And then we got to see lions. So there were a couple of males that had just eaten, and their bellies were full. And so while they knew that we were there, they pretty much were sleeping off the food hangover, is kind of what was going on with them. But look at how gigantic these boys are. This is one of them. This is the second one. Just look at the size of those paws, just the width of the head. They're so huge. And that one was looking at me briefly from his food stupor. So here's a video of him. And he's not terribly concerned at all. Now, while we're looking at them, they knew that fresh kill had happened. So we went to find that and found that this young lady, well, no, I don't know how old she is, but this girl was eating on what was left of the kill that those boys had made. Now, you can see that it's a zebra. You can see that, you can see some of the skin left there. So, just, I knew that we would probably see kills on safari. I knew that we could see hunting in progress. I knew that we could see all of those things. And, and frankly, it's how wildlife live, right? So I was like, okay, fine. So we hung out with this young lady for a little while, um, watching her try to get whatever was left on this. Now, listen to her teeth. Listen to her biting into the bone. Just how strong these teeth are. Listen to that biting that bone. So it was amazing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, actually, of just how strong those teeth are. And then here's another one. You'll hear the biting again.
Can you tell what that is? No, it's here, that's all.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Some on the Jeep or the vehicle didn't want to know what the animal was, you know, as long as it was anonymous, they, didn't want to know. But at one point, she is maybe hearing something, I'm not sure, but she sits up and we get some really nice photographs of her as just the majestic lioness that she is. In fact, I got one where she's looking straight in the camera and she's just beautiful. Look at that. I mean, good gracious. I was just click, 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 because I was just mesmerized by her. Um, just incredible. She's beautiful. Then we went back to see if the lions were doing anything, but they were still sleeping it off. uh, and so as we were driving back in the evening, we saw this elephant walking across the plains into that delta area. And here was the evening's sunset photos. So here you can see this is part of that delta area. So out around those trees, or maybe a little further out, is the Namibian um, border. Um, so this is pretty dry right now, but eventually it'll probably have water in it. But because it's winter time and it's drier in the winter in Africa. Um, and so it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. Okay. So we head back to the camp. We have dinner and all that and hang out. And then tomorrow is another adventure. So I know I mentioned on one of the other videos that, um, you go on some mini game drives. We went on about 25. I think we went on 25 game drives. And it's like, it can't get any better, right? It can't. It can't. What we saw today was fabulous. It's like, how could tomorrow top today? It just doesn't make any sense, right? But it does. Every day is an adventure in and of itself. And so this was the first time we saw a lion. And we see a few more of lions through the rest of the safari. So be prepared for some more lions and well, actually lioness and cubs. So anyway, more to come on that. So anyway, that was this day on safari. And I'll see you soon on another video. Thanks so much.